Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Susan Reyna Guerrero, and you're watching Hotline 21 CAN TV. This is a live call-in show, so please feel free to call us. The number is listed on the bottom of your screen, 312-738-1060. Again, my name is Susan Reyna Guerrero, and you're joining Larry Wyrobek and myself. We're both from Beacon Therapeutic Diagnostic and Treatment Center. Just a little bit of background on Beacon. Beacon was founded in 1968 by a group of parents wanting to find specialized educational services for their children. And 40 plus years later, we're still here. I'd like to put up some contact information on where Beacon is located. Beacon is located in the Beverly community. We have 4 different locations. Our business office at 1912 West 103rd. Our Longwood campus, which Larry will be talking a little bit more about, that is where our elementary school is located. Our Calumet Park location, which houses our high school program. And our newest facility is located on Western Avenue, our homeless outreach services. Over the next couple of weeks, you'll be hearing more about all of our programs. Today, I am delighted to have Larry Wyrobek here. He's been with Beacon for over 26 years, almost 26 years. Almost 26 years, okay. During that time, he's really held many positions at Beacon. He started off as a certified special ed teacher. He was our learning disabilities coordinator. He was our assistant principal, and for the past 12 years, he's been our principal. So perhaps, Larry, you can tell me a little bit about what your time has been like for the past 20-some years at Beacon, and then I'll have some questions for you as well. So why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I came to Beacon, Susan said, about 27 years ago, if you count that I did an internship originally. I was in a local college in the community, and one of my minors was a psychology minor, and I had to do an internship. So the professor offered Beacon. I thought, okay, never heard of it before. So I went there, and here it is, this brownstone home with 7 classrooms, and it was very intensive in terms of being individualized with the kids. And I could be as creative as I wanted to be, and I think that's the key more than anything else. I mean, you're free to utilize and use all kinds of different kinds of interventions and things, and I loved it. And so decided to put in a resume and what have you, got a teaching position, and been here ever since in one form or another. So.
That's great. Actually, I can put up an image of our high school facility, or excuse me, our elementary site, which kind of gives you a sense of the agency or the school where we're located at. Can you tell me a little bit, why don't you describe the elementary school program at Beacon?
Sure. We are a fully functional mental health institution also in terms of being a special function school. We service kids identified as severely emotionally disturbed behavior disordered with a variety of secondary characteristics, specific learning disabilities, occupational therapy needs, speech and language therapy needs. And our goal is to try to present and offer for the kids as much supportive academic service as possible for the purpose of eventually reintegrating back in the mainstream. But more importantly, I think, and really linked with us, is the concept of creating a therapeutic service, a support system for the kids. I think you really have to have that if you're going to see some real academic progress in some way.
Now, are there special approvals that the school has?
We have a variety, actually. We're Illinois State Board of Education certified. We're also North Central Advanced certified. That allows us to grant valid 8th grade and high school diplomas. In addition to that, as part of our other departments, we have something called Joint Commission accreditation, which allows us to function and offer specific mental health needs and services for our kids in addition to our normal academic services.
I'd like to remind everyone this is a live call-in show. I'm here with Larry Wyrobek. My name is Susan Reyna. We're from Beacon Therapeutic. Please feel free to call us if you have any questions or comments. The number is 312-738-1060. We're here talking about the elementary school at Beacon Therapeutic. Larry, can you describe specifically what are some of the services that our school offers?
Well, as I said earlier, the academic services, for all intents and purposes, are really the core. So our academic curriculum is standards-based, based on the Illinois State Board of Ed standards. In addition to that, though, it's important to offer as many supportive activities as possible for our kids. If you keep in mind that our kids really have some difficulty with social functioning in some way, shape, or form. They haven't experienced really kind of the social atmosphere that you and I can maybe take for granted as we went through our school years. So we offer activities such as like History Month presentations, Christmas presentations. We have a wonderful music program that we offer for the kids.
I'm going to put up some images of some of our kids doing some of those activities that you
We
talk
also
about.
partner with some of the community services in our area. For example, the Chicago Police Department. We're involved in what's called the GREAT program, which is a social skill development program for our kids. We have a wonderful connection with our local police department, what have you.
Larry, we have we have a caller
Sure,
right
sure.
now. So, caller?
Yes, just wondering, how is the school funded, and do the kids live there on the campus, or they come from the area, or just get bused in, or how does it work?
Yeah, that's
It's
a
a
good
great question. Thank you.
We're actually a day treatment center, day placement. We are not a 24-hour placement. It's not a residential facility. Our goal is to provide supportive academic services, teach the kids how to function in a school setting. All of our kids, and I didn't get to this earlier, but our kids are referred to us from surrounding school districts, like Chicago Public Schools, for example, and various suburban districts. For one reason or another, they are not successful in the mainstream setting. As I said before, also, their academic classification is usually severely emotionally disturbed, behavior disordered, with a variety of different secondary characteristics. So we provide the educational services to augment their skills in those areas, and also teach them appropriate social skills.
We're also able to, there's some creative work that we've done with school districts and sometimes privately. So clearly, the access to our services are based on children having moved through a continuum of educational placements, usually within their home district. And then based on their IEP, it's determined that that IEP can only be implemented in something like a program like Beacon. So we're considered a therapeutic day program, private therapeutic day program. So the school districts will support the funding for the children to access our services. We also have done short-term diagnostic placements for children, so that at times school districts have purchased 30 to 60 days of our services in order to provide some assessments, some specialized assessments, and that's some of the services that we offer. So all the services that are needed within the individual education plan to be delivered, Beacon does offer. So maybe can you describe some of those specialties, speech, OT?
Sure. If you're not aware of an individualized education plan, every special education student or student identified as needing special ed services, it's in a sense almost like a contract in a sense, because it specifically delineates the type of services the child will receive, maybe speech and language, maybe occupational therapy, social work, for example. In addition to that, there's the specific educational goals. Johnny will be able to know his multiplication tables at the end of the year, what have you. So in that sense, it's updated and analyzed quarterly. We review it quarterly at the very least, and we share that with the parents. So at least on a quarterly basis, the parents know the child's needs, their progress especially, and if we need to amend it in some way, we'll do that also. So that's really a key.
Some images of some of the work and some of the, you mentioned some of the specialized activities.
Yeah, I want
children have.
to get in also. I mentioned the academic program in a sense, but really intertwined with that is the social emotional program, the clinical program, the therapeutic program that we offer. Our administrative functioning, our team is usually consisting of a principal, myself, and a clinical manager. We work hand in hand because it's necessary. A lot of the kids, again, were not successful in the mainstream, and they've been identified as having some severe social emotional needs. And it's important to address those. I think the key especially is that for one reason or another, the amount of trust that a child has or does not have with some significant adult is hampered in some way and very severely hindered. So it's up to us to kind of create that nurturing, supportive atmosphere, and that's where our clinical therapeutic program comes in. And again, we work hand in hand.
Yeah, I know last week we had Alice Merrifield on, and she was talking about our philosophy of care, and it sounds like that's what you're describing. What is our philosophy of care? What other ways does that philosophy of care reflect in the work that we're doing within the school?
Well, what's important, again, about the therapeutic services we offer, we have to try to teach our kids, to trust adults, to be able to function in a school setting. So consistency of program, consistency of care, the presentation of staff is really key. The verbal presentation can't be underestimated. I mean, they need to know that they're in a nurturing, secure environment. And that once you create that, then they start to trust in you, and that's when you start to see some significant academic gains in a sense. So we are continually planning the interventions for our kids and really researching the needs of each individual child.
Seems we have a caller. Caller?
Yes, I have a question. What is the turnover in staff with working with this challenged population?
I've been really lucky, actually. On average, for most special function schools, if you go 3 to 5 years for staff before they move on, that's really lucky. My core, and I have about 8 of us who have been together 15 plus years, and I think the success of the program is directly determined by the amount of investment of staff and the ability to create a consistent environment. And that's really a key for our kids. They don't have, again, as I said before, that consistent nurturing environment. So our staff, again, 15 years plus experience at least, they know all the ins and outs. They do the research on the kids. They can provide a consistent kind of atmosphere for our kids, and that's really a key for them.
I think what's significant about that is that I think you're right. And normally within this environment, there is a significant turnover. And I think what's helpful is that the children are able to develop a long-term relationship with their primary educators. It also provides an opportunity for the parents to develop a connection, but at the same time, it's also allowing them, the goal is, of course, to return the children back to their home school, but many times that ends up being the best setting for them. What type of staff development is offered, do you think, that makes a difference for the staff to be able to stay with us?
Well, there's a few things, actually. Number one, we have to keep our staff up to date on latest academic trends, at least. What are the latest laws, for example? No Child Left Behind is a good example of that. Bringing our staff up to speed on those kinds of things. And then the academic interventions that we can use. We try to what we call differentiate our instructional planning. And simply what that means is we try to be as creative as we possibly can be with the different types of academic interventions. These types of kids that we deal with just do not have the ability, unfortunately, to sit there in a traditional kind of classroom. Here's your book, here's your pencil, here's your piece of paper, work on this for 45 minutes. It's just not going to happen. So we need to vary the instructional approach and make it as engaging and supportive as possible in that way. So they love to do hands-on kinds of things. They love it. And we will be as creative and as engaging as we possibly can be with the kids.
Well, and actually, I'll put real quickly the picture of some of the things the kids work on. But we do have a caller. Caller?
Yes. Good afternoon. How
you
y'all
do?
guys doing? A quick question. Years ago, I worked at a hospital. We used to hold detoxes. And we used to go in a lot of homes, and sometimes you find homes where young children, was being neglected. And we had a linkage agreement with Hargrove. That's the first question. Do y'all accept those kids from Hargrove? And number two, do you take autism kids, younger kids, that's having very bad behavior problems? I'd like to hear your response. Let me get it out there. Thank you for taking my call.
Oh,
Thank
you. Actually, two things. I'll answer one part of it, and you can answer the other part of it. In terms of linkage agreements, we found that being able to do this work, you can't do it alone. And clearly, we value collaborations. We have many collaborations. We're also, part of our funding is through the Illinois Department of Human Services. So we do have linkage agreements with community hospitals and with other mental health providers. So, we've discussed in one of the earlier episodes, we talked about the use of wraparound services and collaborations. So we do work collaboratively with Hargrove, actually, with some of the other hospitals as well. And many times our children end up in the hospital for psychiatric reasons. So then we provide the continuity when they're in the hospital as well as when they exit. In terms of the autism program, Larry, why don't you take that one away? That's
as I mentioned before, we have various licensures of sorts, and we're licensed to instruct children who have autistic tendencies in some way. As I mentioned before, emotionally disturbed behavior disorder kids, learning disabilities, etc. So again, the prior research, and again, kids get referred to us from surrounding districts. we do the research on their backgrounds, and if we need to amend a program in some way or provide more specific kinds of services, we'll do that. But the beauty part about it is, again, we have multiple accreditations of sorts.
So we are approved to provide services for children with
Exactly.
autism, but we also have developed a specialty program for autism. We have it's a little bit more developed at our high school, but we do have the capacity to develop specialized services for autistic and autistic spectrum children within our elementary site. We do have a caller.
Yes. What type of medical staff do you have on site for your
It sounds
Okay,
like we
thank
lost
you.
our caller
Yeah.
a little bit, but medical staff, I believe, is what she was asking. As I mentioned earlier, I mentioned Joint Commission accreditation. That allows us really to have to function as a mental health institution also, and offer clinical medical services in addition to that. For example, we do have a couple psychiatrists on board to assist us with certain programs. Psychologists, psychiatrists, nurses, social workers. We talked earlier about the kind of the continuum of care, and we mentioned the hospital facilities. We see that as part of the continuum if need be. We deal with children who have some really significant needs. And if we need to go that route, we will do that. Whatever it takes to benefit the child, to keep the child secure especially, and to keep the child healthy.
I'd like to show some more images of our children doing the work that they do. I'd like to remind everyone this is a live call-in show. We seem to be getting quite a few calls today, which is good, because otherwise you just keep on hearing us. So the number is 312-738-1060. And Larry, why don't you tell me a little bit about what the kids are doing in this picture?
Sure, I kind of alluded to it earlier. I mean, it's really important that we create that nurturing background for our kids. Again, they have not, and I think this is what you really need to understand, they have not had really the social experiences that maybe you and I take for granted. And so we need to structure activities for them where they can learn those skills. So the picture you see here, we have, I mentioned the art fair, multicultural fair. This is our Christmas pageant that we do, a music program. Any activity we can do that, number one, makes the kids feel good about themselves and shows off their skills, as a matter of fact, but also kind of monitors and has a structured social situation where we can look after their interactions with each other and teach them how to interact with each other.
This one is really neat. What the heck is going on?
That
there?
was we had. Speaking of continuum, that is a wonderful little connection we have with an outside music agency that came in, and they did a puppet show and music presentation for our kids that they participated in. And again, it was more social skill based than anything else.
Yeah, and it's also, and this, I like this one. 'Cause
Yeah,
it
this
really
is
does
something
describe our
similar in a
partnerships.
sense. This is with the local Chicago Police Department, our 22nd district, and we have a wonderful relationship with them. Officer Modeste, the lady you see in the middle, she teaches our GREAT program, it's called, and it's a social skill development program. It's to teach the kids about how to interact in mainstream America, so to speak, how to avoid undue influences of sorts. And we have a big celebration for them. It's a class they go through. They get rewards, and I think that's something I didn't mention earlier, but trying to reward our kids as much as possible is really, really a key. They're not used to getting those rewards, and invariably these are the kids that act up in school in some way. They don't have positive experiences in school, and they're used, unfortunately, to getting the consequence, and we want to break that.
Yeah, this particular picture, I think, it bespeaks somewhat of our collaborations in terms of, is this the film?
It is.
It is the film people. Okay.
Through the Variety Club, they sponsored us, our kids, to come and visit a movie theater and find out the inner workings of a movie theater. And so they're able to see the movie, but actually how it functions behind the scenes. So this is a projector they have. The concessions also that they experience, on how to make the popcorn or what have you. And it's something the kids just don't get a chance to experience in a sense. We want to get them into the mainstream somehow. We want to acclimate them to the normal mores that you and I, again, are used to.
What would you think differentiates Beacon from other therapeutic schools, other programs?
Well, I think that's the key, especially at the Longwood campus, the elementary campus. And one of the reasons I came at the beginning was there's a wonderful kind of hominess about it, a nurturing quality about it. It's a very close setting with our kids. It's very individualized with our kids. So not only are we able to kind of create that kind of environment for our kids, but we're also able to offer just a variety of different kinds of activities and connections in the community for their kids. And that's really a key. Again, our ultimate goal is to reintegrate them back in the mainstream, their mainstream school setting.
Can you describe a little bit about just what that looks like? What do we do specifically to make sure their transition into their homeschool is successful? Because I think that's really important.
Sure. And it is a pretty intensive process, actually, because, again, we look at the academic concerns that the child's presenting. So we create a specific academic program for them. In addition to that, then, I mentioned the social emotional sphere, the therapeutic component. Doing the research on, again, the types of trauma that they've experienced, and teaching our staff on how to deal with that, recognize that in that particular child, create the nurturing atmosphere for them, and then monitor that progress, as I mentioned before in the IEP, quarterly at least, monitor their academic progress, monitor their social emotional functioning. Get to the point where, as the IEP progresses, the IEP process progresses, Johnny or Janie has met the needs or met the goals in some way, and now we can talk about the need to reintegrate them and creating a more specific plan related specifically to that. Who will monitor them in a transition? We have a reintegration coordinator, as a matter of fact, who will follow the child back into the mainstream once that recommendation has been made and monitor them, be there as a liaison with the with the reintegrating school and the child, and then adjust and amend the program where necessary.
And I think one of the unique features of that is that really there's a lot of support that's needed for the children to be successful back in their home school. So we do look at things like, do they need uniforms? Do they understand access to lockers and maneuvering throughout the building? And for a lot of those, for a lot of our children, it's very hard to maneuver those things. So we slowly transition them back into their home school. So looking at the easier classes they can participate in, so that maybe the transition happens over the course of a year. So it's not 100% at Beacon and then suddenly they're back in their home school. I'd like to actually provide some information on our location again. These are 3 locations. Now, the program that you're speaking of specifically is our Longwood campus, and that's at 10650 South Longwood, and the number there is 773-881-1005. And then to access those services, particularly, access some of the day school services, folks can contact us, but clearly the process does get initiated through the school district. But many times it is helpful for parents who are trying to determine what services are out there. We're more than willing to give tours and so on. So
I'm sorry, Susan. We offer a lot of consultative services to families in the neighborhood who are just unclear of the special education process or unclear that their child suddenly is demonstrating some behaviors that they've never experienced before. So we will gladly offer that input in some way, just to get them on the road and give them some kind of peace of mind at least.
Okay, well, we have, I don't know if we're running out of time or not, but any final words, any final comments, Larry?
Well, again, the key to us is establishing the relationship with our kids, establishing the trusting relationship with our kids. Once we can do that, then you'll see some real academic progress. But again, overcoming the trauma these kids have experienced in their life, and you can't underestimate that. Significant things that again, you and I maybe have not experienced. It affects them severely. Okay.
What I would again like to end with our information. A couple of other things, like we ran out of time, but we offer a very small student to staff ratio. There's no more than 10 children in one classroom.
Correct.
We offer all the supports that they need. One additional piece of information is that I would like to put up some information about Beacon and its annual holiday event. At this point, it's scheduled for the first Friday in December. We're honoring this actually is located at our Longwood facility, and it's the first Friday in December, so it's December 3rd. Folks can come out and support us by attending the event. Of course, we're always looking for sponsorships and donation items and those kinds of things. And there are also volunteer opportunities for the school itself. I would like to thank you, Larry, for joining us today. My name is Susan Reyna, and this is Larry Wyrobek. You're watching CAN TV, Channel 21. We will be here next week again with another guest. Thank you again, Larry.
Sure.
Thank you
It was a
for
pleasure.
coming.
Thank you, Susan.
And thank you to our callers, and hopefully you'll call again next week.